Hello, everyone. Today we speak about relationships, the importance and strategies to build relationships. And I speak with my friend Daniy. She's a coach and she's German, but she has moved many times in her life. And now she calls her home Swedish Lapland. So whether you are an expat or just someone who is looking for new strategies to build relationships, you will find a lot of value in this discussion. Hi, Daniy.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about your journey? How comes that you live now in Swedish Lapland? So far, close to polar circle.
Yes. Thank you, Olga, for the invitation and a big hello to your audience. And yes, I will. I hope I tell you a lot so that your time you're spending here will be a very valuable time. So, how I came to the polar circle, I was always very much following my heart. And this brought me many years ago to northern areas, and there I always felt very happy. So I had the point that I came back home and I did not feel as happy as I felt happy in the north. And I also had a very good coach. So I always say, as a coach, it's important to have a good coach. And I reflected with this coach on that point, and she said, "What are your resources up there?" And for me, it was the nature and the dogs. And so I followed this idea for many years to move up north, to live there. And I'm also a person dealing with high sensitivity. So for me, living in very crowded areas, it was always very difficult. And so I started to learn more about this topic, high sensitivity, and to really accept myself. And so I said, okay, I really want to live in the north. I want to have space. I want to have space for my dogs. And I want to have my own water. I want to have less water pollution and less air pollution, and also less 5G and less, this, I say the difficult things of the civilization. So I learned when I follow my heart, usually it turns out something. There is a path opening, and this path opened nearly 2 years ago. And yes, we followed, and now we are here.
Show a little movie about your life now in Sweden, how it looks.
Yes.
And so, about the importance of the relationship, why you think personally that relationships are vital? Did your sense of connection change during your life, and how did living in such a remote place changes, influences for meaningful connections for you?
Yes, it's many years ago. It was in the COVID time. It's now many years. It's nice. It is a few years ago. I spent a lot of time in Germany, and in a very beautiful area, but it was very crowded, and people living there with a dog, it's really difficult because people don't want you in the forest, on the meadows. Yes, they will just want you walking on a path with the leash. And so I learned for myself that I I want to live in a place where I'm welcome. And in one forest, I said to myself, I want to in future I want to live in a way that when I see people, I'm very happy. I'm happy to see people. And now I live like this. In Sweden, it's now when you live here, the people are much more open. So they don't judge you down because you have a dog or doing this or doing something wrong. They just don't tell you. So, and you don't meet many people. It's a very rare occasion in the forest out here. And now it's like this. It changed for me that now I'm very happy to see and meet people. And I have the feeling that because here are most of the people living in same attitude of lifestyle, and they love nature, they love dogs, they love the Arctic, they love the darkness, they love the northern light. So I have the feeling that we are kind of all connected in a quite nearly similar base, because the other people, they move away if you don't like it here, and if you can, you move to another place, to a city. So it's, I liked it a lot how it changed for me here in Sweden to have this very heart opened and very nice relationships.
Hmm, wonderful. You speak how beautiful these relationships are. Have you faced any challenges in building relationship? Did language barrier play any role or any cultural differences?
Yes, I mean, I have to say, for us moving to Sweden was, I faced less challenges than moving to other countries. I moved to the Netherlands, and I also lived in India, and I moved also in Germany to different places. And this time I moved to Sweden, and I was not expecting anything. I moved to a country I don't know the language, because we made the decision very fast. So I arrived here with no expectations in anyone, and I got surprised, and this was very beautiful. So the challenges I faced, they were like sometimes even more on a funny base. For example, that I mean, I live more as a Buddhist since about 20 years. And I had a plumber in my house in the first days I lived in Sweden. And he left the house and was all good. And then suddenly he came back, he knocked on the door. And I was like, what is? And he took his mobile phone and he showed me and he said, look, look. And there was a just fresh hunted bear on the picture. So the bear was not alive anymore. And I was like, okay, I mean, how should I react now? I mean, for me, having killing a bear, it's like so far away, and I also didn't want to judge him for killing a bear. And he was so happy. He said, like, it's up here in the north, it's just a normal topic. And he said, it was only 4 kilometers from you here. It was yesterday. And he was so excited about it. And I, it helps me a lot to live in this Buddhist way, like just take things as they are and don't judge. So I asked him, where exactly it was. And I was just very interested to get more information. And this helps me a lot. So I think he also maybe tested a bit how this new German is reacting to a picture like this. Yes, I would. He is a very nice person and very smart person. So all this hunting up here in the north, it's a bit challenging to live with, but also now the longer I'm here, I see that it's just a part of living here and being here. So the people, they shoot moose and they eat it, and it's just a normal thing. So this was in the beginning a bit challenging, and also usually I was a vegetarian,
Yeah.
so I just don't like to eat meat. But here it's all the time that people like come and bring you some meat, and they say, "Look, it's from my moose."
Um,
Of course. I mean, I just ate it 2 days ago. Yes, I was happy. I made some köttbullar by myself, and I just try to take it as it is, and being grateful that the people also approach to me in this very open way.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, excellent. Right. It's a beautiful story because it shows how people also are open and they want to connect. But he left and then probably he thought for a while, came back and decided to share with you what
Yes.
something like that.
I want to say about the language you also asked me. I just was thinking about. I learned here in Sweden, and it's also different to live in expat surroundings, which is usually English speaking. That when I'm here in groups, I invited, for example, my neighbors here. We have some, like 10 people came. It was really nice. They live like up the river. And I mean, we don't see them usually. We just passing by the houses, which are also remote from the road. And in groups, they speak Swedish. It's not that they speak English. And so in the beginning, of course, they try and they say, "Oh, we want to try to speak English," but for them, of course, it's difficult. And many people here not speaking so much English. So especially the older people, they are not used to it. And I experienced that in groups. I know I need to learn Swedish, and I learned meanwhile, so at least I understand properly what they are talking about. So I can usually start talking in English or ask them some question. And so it's necessary to learn the language here. And with older people, it's very interesting because they don't speak English. So I'm also in a group that they play boccia, and we talk with hand and feet. It was one guy was asking me something one day, and I made the whole sentences. It was like half a year ago in Swedish, and he looked at me and he was so happy that, and he said, "You speak Swedish?" And I said, "But only a little bit." On the next day, I met another person in the supermarket, and he said, "Oh, you know, Björn told me that now you speak Swedish." So it makes them so happy that
Yes,
you really try
yes,
to, yes, to work on it. And of course, this I would give this recommendation to everybody to really try to learn the language, just to show that you like to engage. And I'm far away from speaking perfect.
yes. Indeed, people appreciate it, right? It was also my strategy when I moved to Germany and I had time. I learned German language because I saw as soon as two people are together, they will speak German. And also in the Netherlands, it's more challenging because almost everybody speaks English. But if you want to be integrated, you want to speak. I remember I worked in a company and there were several expats and they didn't feel comfortable because Dutch people spoke Dutch between themselves and they felt excluded. Those who they
Yes.
all were sitting in one office. It is nice to understand, at least to understand and also to engage.
Yes. I mean, the language is a key to identity and to connect. And it's so, I think, also emotional based. And this feeling excluded or included, it's a topic we have to engage with living abroad.
All right. So now, did you have any specific strategies how you built connections when you to Sweden or any other countries? Did you use any of your interest in hobbies or like dogs you mentioned that you moved because one big reason to move to Sweden was your dogs and any specific strategies and activities?
Yes, I have one strategy which is for me very important, and it helped me always a lot when I move to new places. It's first, I stay away from people which think negative about the country we are living in. So, because I think it's so important to start in a new country with a very open heart and a very open mind. And for example, I learned it here that I have, funnily, friends of mine from former times in Germany when I was very young. They moved like 1.5 hour away from my new place here. So, and for example, they had a very negative mindset here. They had bad experiences for them. And for me, it was very clear when I spend a lot of time with them in my first time in Sweden, it's kind of spoiling the experiences, the new experiences I make. So I told them, listen, please, I'm new here. I don't want to talk about the bad things and always going into the, yes. And I experienced it in other countries too, that expats, there are some expats, they just don't like living in the countries.
yes,
And it makes something to you if you spend time with this person. And I like the story of Gandhi's mother. She said she took, it's a story saying that it happened like this. I never read it on the paper, but I tell you the story now. So you have a plate of apples she took and showed her children, and it was beautiful apples. And they say, look at this. And they said, oh, nice. And she took one apple which was rotten, started already to not being in a good shape, and she put it in the middle. And then she closed it. And on the next day, she got the children and she opened it, and you saw the apples around also started to be not good anymore. So this is my one strategy I really recommend to everybody, to look for people which like to live in the country. And I think it's always something beautiful in each country. I mean, also the Netherlands, it's so
yes,
beautiful to be there. And of course, there are some things which are not so perfect, but in the end, you have to. And we know as coaches and as psychologists, it's the focus, what I focus on.
yes,
And then I see the things. And a second strategy is really to do the things I love, that I don't try to do things to meet people. It's just to do the things I love. And then it's just normal and a normal thing that you meet people which also love this thing. And this is for me much nicer than to really look how I can meet people now. Okay, the biggest chance is maybe to do this and this. And then it's like, yes, this always helped me a lot. And what always was a strategy is not to have any expectations.
yes,
And to have good projects for myself. Like I wrote my book, I finished my book in the first time I was here in Sweden. And I was just happy to be at home by myself and not having so much people around. So I think this is also good to really get a project in what you fulfill you first, especially in the beginning when you move to a new country, which you love just for yourself to be safe in this. Yes, and I think another point, I think maybe it's the last, I have a few, I mean, yeah.
yes. It's very important point.
Yes, it's to go to have a good why. Usually, when I do big decisions in my life, I really clear my mind and collect it. Why, and I write it down. Why I moved to Sweden,
Yes,
and as soon as I struggling, I mean, there are also always, of course, I also had these days where I thought, oh my god, minus 35 degrees. I just had it, the electricity, turned off, and I had to go out, and there was a metallic box, and it didn't open because it was frozen in my hands. I touched the metal thing, and my hands were like frozen within seconds, and I couldn't open it, and I didn't have electricity, and the heating system didn't work. And I was there like, why?
why on earth?
Really? So the next day I took a hot water, for I don't know the name in English, which you fill the hot water and you carry it
Yes,
in bed.
hot,
I
hot
put
water,
on this,
hot water.
yeah, hot water. And I put it there so it melted and I could open it. But these are the moments.
Yes,
It's so good when I come back home and I have a clear why.
mhm,
I know why I'm here. And especially as an expat, I mean, I have a reason why I moved to another country. And whatever it is it career, new experience? I mean, working in all these fantastic companies, especially in the Netherlands, I think it's really find out why you do it. And then it's much easier in the difficult moments.
Yes, and knowing why you move, having something meaningful to do. It's not that the country will make it you happy. You need to bring something with you, correct? You have your project, you have something meaningful to do, you have things you love to do, and you can do it in this new place, and you just follow your heart and do what you love, correct?
Yes, exactly. Yes. I think these are the main points. Yes.
So can you tell a little bit what are the interests and hobbies that you did, how it helped you?
Yes. I mean, I think a big help is to have dogs because I think all over the world, the dog owners connect very easily.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't help to say just go and buy a dog. If people can, it's good if it works out with now I know in this beautiful company ESA in the Netherlands they have a kindergarten for dogs now.
Oh,
So
okay.
the boys they found a club so the people can bring their dog in the morning and pick it up in the evening. So really, if you want a dog, it's great because the dog people they always have something to talk about.
Yes, yes. And that
Yes,
they spend time outside, which is also good for our soul, for our mind.
yes,
Oh,
yes,
so,
and I of course I mean here in Sweden I it was my big dream I followed for many years. It was having sled dogs. And I started now, and I have now three sled dogs, and the fourth is on the way. So, of course, I start to step into this sled dog community, and I'm really like a baby having the eggshells behind my ears in this topic, and it's so nice to to meet people and really to ask them, and they like to tell you their experience and they like to help. And so this is my hobby, and I met amazing people here. And we were so lucky that on the second day we arrived here in Sweden, we found a dog half an hour away from our new home, and we could buy this dog, which is Alnitak. It's also a white Samoyed, very fluffy. I think you will show a picture, Olga, you promised.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so your audience can see. And this was our first step into with the breeder. We are still connected today. And then we found the brother of the dog also in Jokkmokk city. So we are connected to this person. And so we started to do it. And what I also learned, it's good to really start and do things that people see that you can do it by yourself. That, like, I always say, don't talk about it, do it. I mean, and I try to stick on by myself. So with the dogs now, I mean, just do it. And now they see, wow, they got the third dog. Okay, yes, they go on the sled and they try. Okay, let's join them or let's help them. So now it's better before asking and talking. It's better to really do it and show it. And then the other people, it's, I think, the law of attraction. So then you find people which also like this.
Yes. It also helps when you have little children, then you are also much out and you connect through kindergarten or schools with other people. And it becomes more challenging when children grow up and you don't have this new connection. Yes.
Yes.
Um, then it is indeed helpful to have another strategy like getting a dog, for example, right? Or doing any other things you love with other people.
Yes, really to think about what I also wanted to do in my life always. I mean, so many people always wanted to do paintings, for example. I always want to do painting. I never have time. So, but why not then to start to learn
Yeah, and
painting?
also going joining a club and painting with other people, learning,
Yes.
doing together. So wonderful. And yeah, so you mentioned already some German friends. I learned not so long time ago that Sweden and Lapland is one of the most favorite places where Germans immigrate. So, do you have any other connections with Germans? What do you prioritize? Connections with the people speaking the same language or local people? And what do you think is important?
I mean, I also learned from my other movings to other places. I try to connect to the people which have the same interest like me
Mhm.
and not the same language or the same nationality. And it worked for me always very well. So I don't want to connect to people here because they are Germans. I'm sorry to say this. So I have connections here with some people. They also have dogs, for example. Or now we met a new couple which is from France. They have like also kind of the same situation like us. They also offer some outdoor experiences. So then I try to connect. But I learned, for example, in the beginning when I moved here, another family moved into our beautiful village called Wollerim. And they say like, oh, we do a spaghetti evening for all the Germans in the village. And I would never do it, and I also don't want to join it because I would do it for my neighbors or for the people I learned already about. But why doing it for the Germans?
Mhm.
It's but that's my way, and maybe it's hard words, but also how do the people feel when only the Germans like sitting together? I mean, they see how that at one evening that all the Germans or many gathers together. I mean, in Sweden, you it's always little. They know everything. They see exactly everything. So why I don't understand it so much. So I would say I invite, of course, maybe a German family I met, or they are friends with the children in school. But then also, why not to invite also the neighbors or the person I'm dealing with every day on the petrol station? I say, or I met someone with the dog. I say, like, just come in. So yes, I like if it works, if the base is there, like if I feel a connection to the people. So and then I say we are all humans. So it's not so important if I connect to Germans or Swedish or French or Dutch people, which I like a lot usually. They're very funny. We also have Dutch people here,
Oh,
Husky Farm, but I look for the connection. Yes.
good. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's easier at the beginning to connect with people who speak the same language and have the same cultural background. And to me seems a bit more challenging what you are doing to step out of your comfort zone and to communicate with people who are not communicating even in English. But this is a long-term relationship
Yes.
then, right? Because many expats are leaving then and you stay again without friends, local friends.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. It's a very important point. Yes.
If you could give any advice to people who struggle to build meaningful relationships or have even fear of rejection, do you
Yes.
have such advice?
I think we are all, I mean, now the psychologist in me is speaking. It's, I believe that we are all born as very open social beings with an open heart. We want to connect and we need connection. And I think nearly all of us, we got some traumatic experiences in our childhood. It's so easy, like just the mother is maybe cooking and you are in the need and she's not coming because the risotto will otherwise burn on.
Yeah,
So, and so we learn at this at different moments that maybe we are rejected, or also in school I think it's very challenging for people, even for the young students today, with mobbing and internet and Instagram. And So they have the very difficulty. So the humans learn being rejected and out of the fear of being rejected. So I would really recommend everybody who is struggling to get out and get a fantastic coach like you, Olga, like find out where was the point where you got this fear. And it's not about really digging deeply into the old topics and what my parents did to me, but to have a look on it. What did I learn in my life? What made me struggling? And of course, being an expat, moving to other countries, it's a big challenge. I mean, it triggers us on all our really basal needs like security, social connection. It's exhausting. Yes, it's many. It's usual. It's normal that you are alone in the beginning, so it's really triggering. And then to find out with so the advice is look for help. Go to a coach or to a psychologist. I also work with people, and we many times we find out and say like, "Oh wow,
Mhm,
I learned this and that in my life." I mean, it could be also helpful things. If you learned as a child that the best is you do everything alone,
mhm,
for example, because your parents left you alone a lot, or they were working a lot and they were not there for you. So you learned, I do better my things alone. It can be helpful if you're then an expert.
mhm.
But still, it's important then to say, okay, but maybe it's good to learn to ask for help. Or maybe it's good to open more up and to learn that I don't have to do everything alone. So I think it's a great chance to, and I love the work of personality, and I'm um, really enthusiastic about Jung's theory about individuation of people, the path of individuation. He says that we all, especially in the mid of the 40s, beginning of the 40s, we start to learn to become really an individual person. And we really learn to live what we are, and to start that we have like also cannot fit always into it. And I think living as an expat, it's a big chance to learn about myself. But I need help. I think it's difficult to do it alone. And now we have so much online possibilities to book coaches and to meet people. And just my advice is really go out and try it. Book your coach. Look for certificated coaches and certificated hypnotherapists, like that. The people really learn something. It's not was not a weekend course.
Mhm.
So yes, try it. Go out and learn what's going on inside yourself. It makes life, I think, easier.
Yeah. Maybe a friend of yours can also refer you if he or she has good experience with a coach, and you can also see reviews about the coach. This can also help you to choose. So one thing is it's a certified coach, hypnotherapist, specialist. And
Yes, and it's also
probably,
not being alone. It's good to know there is someone I can talk to maybe once a week or every second week. So I know that my clients, that sometimes I ask them, maybe we stop working together because like we worked on all the topics. And I hear many times that they say, no, Dani, I just enjoy to talk every second week with you on Friday and to tell you about my life. And so I say, okay, if it's good for you, we can do it. And we always find little things or things I see better, or when they start telling about their life, they realize by themselves, oh, interesting, I did this and that. And so it's good to have someone around to join, which joins your life journey for maybe a certain amount of time.
some expert who can understand and see certain details, important details about you and help you to improve your life, quality of your life, so that you can enjoy your life better. Right? you expect
Yes,
them
yes, yes. And which is really there to listen to you. I mean, that's also a big, and it is very free and open-minded person. Yes, because I also I think sometimes when I experience this when I met new people in the expat community, that you never know, like, who is the person you are talking to. Maybe is it the wife or the husband of maybe a colleague of my husband, and who knows what about this and this person. So I had the feeling that many times in the beginning it's a lot of insecurity. What can I talk about? Can I talk about maybe my weaknesses or what happened to me, and maybe not such a good way, which is maybe not, like, wow, I did this and that and that. So I felt like a not honest conversation in the beginning. And also maybe,
Oh,
I mean, yeah, so I think this is also good to keep in mind. If you look like for a coach, it's just a neutral person, and it's really there for listening to you, and you can talk free about your own things, and this is very important.
and so you moved already 2 years ago, right? And perhaps people come to a new place motivated and put all the efforts, and then with time, with challenges, they might give up. And like I see some people give up learning the local language, give up connecting with the local people, and just stick with the. Do you have any advice on overcoming the challenges or staying motivated?
Yes, I think first of all it's important, additional, when I did all my homework, like I really tried to know my why, I really tried to do everything, that if there is no motivation, that it's also important to take this as a fact and to work on it. Like, um, I mean, we have all our shadow sides and we have the dark times in life, and it's, I think, important to integrate these shadow times into ourselves, like not being miserable because I'm not motivated. I think so. I also, it's my way of life seeing it's then to say, okay, I'm not motivated. What inside myself is not being motivated? What's going on? And to really also have this grief, and maybe to stay at home and maybe to cry into the pillow and being sad. It's so important not always to push everything away, which I don't like. And of course, I don't do this for a long time, but it's important to do it and don't judge myself for that I couldn't make it at that moment. And for me, I also learned a lot about shamanic work, and I for myself, I mentioned already, have my spiritual home in the Buddhism, and this also helps me a lot to say, to go through my life without judging all the times and put things into categories. This is bad, this is wrong, this is good, this is perfect. Yes, but just to say, okay, at the moment the things are like they are. And what is the problem to say maybe also I couldn't face the challenge of being an expat, and I make the decision, I go back home. Why not? It's usually our outside, or what we think, what the others think about us if I come back. But maybe we don't know what others think, and maybe why not to have, after a certain time, the moment to say, okay, it was not what I really expected, or maybe also the work was not that what I hoped. I mean, many times expat, they go abroad and they have so high expectations, and maybe it was also told to them, listen, you get this job, you can make these steps of career, you get this team, you get a leadership, you get trainings, and then it's not. And maybe then to say, okay, I go back, it's okay, I start another job, and we never know where it will lead us. And I know from different expats, they say it was good that I went back home because there I met my wife, and now we have two children, and we live close to my grandma or to my mother, and she's a perfect grandma. I mean, we also know these stories. And then maybe
Yes,
you forget very fast that it didn't work out abroad.
you can find beauty in everything. You can find your happiness. So going back home, and but first you can see that a certain happening in your life as an expat or in a new place. It's just one happening.
Yes.
Yeah, go.
And the spirituality, I think, helps a lot. Like if you have it inside you, like a kind of Buddhism mindset. Yes, I'm not so into mindset. It's always a bit close, but if you have this inside you that you like the belief that everything what happened in my life will be for a good reason, it's easier to live this human life on this planet. Because
Yes,
if I really think, "But I want this and that, and why does it happen to me? Why to me?" It's really hard to face life with this mindset. So I also recommend for the motivation to work, and especially the Buddhism. Maybe it's good to go to a Buddhist center. They're all over the world. I mean, usually you find them everywhere, or there are online courses, many, and just to try to work inside. I mean, if we are clear inside, usually the outside it's also very clear. So, and it's the law of attraction. If I'm in peace and happiness, usually in the outside I get peace and happy people around me, and then it's also better to be really hard and harsh and fighting inside, because then you get it in the outside. I mean, meanwhile, we know a lot about this laws of attraction.
mhm,
But it's not easy. I also have to say, I mean, of course, I also had these moments where I thought, oh my God. I mean, it's also always a lot of money, maybe it's losing friends, it's saying goodbye, it's of course the feeling of not didn't do it right. And I don't want to say that it's easy.
yes. And it also gets complicated if you are with your whole family in a new place and your children are at school and they have friends and your
Yes.
wife, your husband are doing well. So it's not that easy then just to lift up and move somewhere else. And yeah, so
Yes.
being
I
aware.
admire these even more. I mean, I don't have children, and I had never to travel with a family, and we are very flexible, also my husband and me. But I really admire families moving to new places, and the children learning the new languages. I think I even cannot imagine how difficult and how much effort it is to really find these ways, and then maybe to go back. I think, yes, it's
Just another way of living, and, and then indeed overcoming some challenges and moving forward with a certain spirituality, with acceptance. And I think it also helps them to learn to see what mistakes were made. With that acceptance, you can change something, you can adopt your strategies, you can act differently.
Yes, and I think it's great for also children to move abroad because they learn exactly these things. They have
Yes,
learn many abilities, and really also usually stuck together with the family, rely on the family.
yes.
It's it's a great opportunity for children, even though it's also not easy. I know. Yes.
It's also for children often challenging if you are living in a foreign place and you are on an international school, and you also lose many friends. Learn that people move, come and go. from early childhood, and that can be
Yeah.
challenging as well. Right. So we went to the end. Let's make some closing reflections about the importance of the relationship when you move to new places, or even if you stay in the same place, but you always move, right? Then you move through the stages of your life, and some relationships, they boost meaning. You always want to build relationships. And what are, if you will summarize, what are the three pieces of advice that you would give people um, about relationships and creating?
Yes. I mean, first of all, thank you, Olga, for also giving me this chance to talk in your interview, because I reflected also a lot on my relationships on a more conscious base. And
My pleasure.
yes, the three. I think really this being with an open heart and an open mind without the prejudices of the people you meet. I think this is very important to give also other people to I mean, if we all meet each other with an open heart, it's so much easier just
Yeah,
to listen and to learn from each other and on the same level of being, not being superior because I'm this and that and this and that. So just to meet and to really see, like my plumber, what's going on in him, what what the people think about all this hunting topic here. It's better than to come to say I'm a Buddhist and you know what, you cannot hunt, it's not okay, and blah, 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 and climate change, blah, blah, blah. And this is not open-hearted, huh? And it's not on the same level. So it's meet people with an open heart and learn from them and really ask them what's going on. I think this is a very important point. And then it's this really be happy with yourself. Like be full inside yourself. Learn what are your strength, what is your weakness, what take the good things and the bad things so that you are a fulfilled person. Because then I learned, I mean, I try to be full as much as possible. I'm always, not always maybe, but then it's easier if you meet people not because you need them, but just to be happy to meet them. Yes, to have it as an additional like cream topping in your life. I think this is also yes, and I think it's always also good to look maybe to have the possibility to fly home. Yes, save some money to fly home if you need it. And I also did this here. I said I always want to have the chance if I need it. I want to fly home to my old friends, to my old family, and maybe stay with them 1 or 2 weeks. So also spoil yourself. Be happy. Do the things which you really love. Yes, these are the most.
but it's not the end of your old relationships or the old friendships. You want to keep them well in your life and enjoy as much as possible meeting those people, staying in contact with them. Right.
I always, and this may be the last thing, I always betray myself in the point of saying goodbye. I always say to people, you know, we're not saying goodbye. We will meet again. And this helps me a lot. I never left a place with this really, now I say goodbye forever. I know it's betraying a bit myself because for me, the pain leaving places, it's really hard. I lived also in India for a while and in a Buddhist monastery, and there came the tourists. So they stayed for 2, 3 days and they left again. And I was there 23 years old and I felt lonely when they left. And I suffered so much again and again. So I started to say, I betray myself. We will see each other again. And also now with all this internet and online, like we, Olga, I mean, we met. last time in the Netherlands 2 years ago, and we did not say goodbye. We said like we will see each other again. And you see, now we are here, and it helps a lot not to say goodbye. We will, and so many people meet each other again. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Daniy. And I hope for our viewers and listeners that they learned a lot and they had some their own ideas and insight that will help them in creating meaningful connections in their life. Keep going.
Keep
Thank you very
going. Thank you, Olga. Bye bye.
much. Bye bye.